definitely wrong pulley. It looked just, when I looked at other pictures of, I'm having a hard time finding it, but there was this much space between this two. These are both meant to line up. The harmonic balancer wasn't tightened all the way. So there's a multitude of issues here with all that. So we can definitely run the water pump at least now on one. I'm looking at this and I'm not 100% sure if that's even lined up, you know? And I'm not sure if the dual one will actually work better. Of course, it won't catch this one, but the front one now might catch this one. Because to me, that's always off. Now, that being said, it wasn't even going on there. But but you know what I'm saying? Like, it passes and it goes to the outside diameter one. So it doesn't really have to line up with this. But I'm kind of thinking that, you know, after this comes out more, this would go out more. So I don't know what was the purpose of all this, what somebody did, or like why it would line up before and not now. Because I think this engine definitely had something with his belt system, you know. So this is very interesting to say the least. So I'm thinking a double one. I got to measure the one on the other car, the double one, to see how far it is from here and here, because if this is meant to line up with this, because even when you look at the belts, it says alternator and fan eliminating the air pump, which was down here. So apparently it all went on one. So that's one belt, and then the second belt runs here. So basically both of them should be running on this, but it's possible this one misses because it hits the other one first. And the angle doesn't come in contact with it. It'd be kind of silly if it did. But I still think it should line up with it. And when I look at it, you know, you can always line up with your hand, you know, but like trying to line up with this now, if you line that up, does that one line up? If you try to line this one up by itself, I'm just not seeing it, because it's supposed to line up, you know, because it actually says, I think AC and water pump, but I don't think that's right. But I think it still is on the same plane here, unless it's actually meant to go on the inside one, which obviously not. However, if you had a dual pulley, it might actually hit that one. So I have a feeling a dual pulley will set it straight. Now, I said that the listing was always showing a double. And yeah, they do, but they show mostly serpentine, which is not what this engine has. So there's a lot of information lost here. And ultimately, you know, this was retrofitted for this car, I gather, by the factory, not by the dealer, because right here, it seems like the GM one would be fitting in here with either a different bracket or some other configuration here, you know. The GM, the fat radial compressor, the fat short one, because that's what you see on the pictures. But even with that radial compressor, you'll see the alternator with a huge space between the two belts. So lo and behold, after removing the dirt, I was like, wow, it actually come off. Because I have all this problem, but I'm like, I can use these for a level platform in a certain sense and maybe build on it. Not exactly sure how just yet, but I know that the Jeep mounts that because I have Jeep and GM mounts, they both look enticing. But ultimately, the Jeep mounts, I can make them totally flat. So if this is for this side, if I put it on this side, now it faces back. I use the top hole and I line up the mark that it made with the bottom. That has to be level. I don't know if I'll be able to get that bolt hole in, but just drill and tap the frame. Not sure yet, but this changes things a little bit, because, you know, even if I had to just add more metal here to go over here, it would be fine. But now I got to get a tape measure out and see, because, like, don't forget, this was all the way forward, and I had to build something out 4 inches in order for that to hit, but now it's not feasible. So if I had to build out 4 inches, or somehow the mounts have got to go in, I don't know how many inches, but not that many, actually, you know. So just doing this alone, and let's say I put a flat plate on that the motor mount accepts, and use that hole as a guide, maybe drill another hole just to mount the metal, I don't see why it can't work. That's very interesting. Wheels are turning. Okay, so I cut like a wedding band off that, but I had first pressed it in more. So I pressed it in pretty significantly because it was about this much showing before. So I went level with it pretty much for the most part. A little under, and then I cut. Because it was a little too far out, and it still might be. I may cut off a little bit off the what do you call it? The whole mechanism, the whole electric steering thing itself, the part of that tube, you know. But I'll put this back together. I'll throw it in. It's freaking raining now, of course, so it didn't make for such a nice thing here. But I think I should be able to weld this at this point. Even though I know this thing ain't moving because now it's pressed in even further. So it's pretty crazy. But so far so good. I think it'll work. And just real quick, I pretty much winged down these bolts, I believe. Yeah, they're all the way tight, and now I can turn it. But it's still like a little bit on the gritty side. That being said, I really didn't take time to really clean it very well. I wasn't trying to, you know, because I thought I had more work to do. So just simply loosen 2 out of 3. It's still tight, but not like it was yesterday. I was tightening them all the way, and it would totally, yeah, even loose though now. It's still binding, so it might just be dirt now. I don't think it was dirt before, and I spun this. It doesn't quite seem like it's centered in this thing, but it's not wobbling or anything like that, you know. So that's got to be right. Because you can't press a shaft and bend it and then it actually not be out of shape, you know. So there's no reason. It's got to be stronger than that, you know. So, but I don't know. I don't know what happened to this fucking thing. Anywho, I did bend that bolt over there, so I don't know if something happened with that. I just don't see that happening. I was kind of forcing it, and I didn't realize the bolt was catching, or I wanted it to go. Obviously, I wanted it all the way through, so it obviously had a problem. So, but this might just be grit now, because like I said, I didn't even clean it. Anyway, I'm gonna put this in and see where it lines up. Okay, I got 2 bolts for the steering box just pushed through, but it's really in the right place. It's not moving crazy. So this is the setup I was talking about. I might have to cut this down. Push this guy back in. All right, phone getting wet, messing everything up. Okay, it's still past the firewall, but the tube can still come, and this U-joint, as long as it fits in the tube, can probably go in the tube. This was a little bit of a pain to push in because of pressing it. I kind of messed up the splines, the hair. Let me just, you know, use 2 hands. All right, it's funny how it really didn't move much. This is going to be tough with only. Hopefully, this will kind of hold. It might work, but this is where it goes. It's even with this. I kind of wanted the original or the exhaust piece pipe that I got to go here because I really wanted the horn switch to not be seen as much, like I kind of did with the other one. It was kind of there, but I can't remember exactly. I think all this was behind or just in front, but underneath, you know, so it was less out of the way. So it still looks like I can go in more, but I'm debating now whether I should I gotta see, like, it may be better to have the meat of the bracket on this pipe instead, but I just know that it needs to like over loop the other one. So I don't know if that means I gotta slide it, slide that joint forward. This is the reason why I wanted that slide joint, but I gotta just think about now, where exactly do I want this on this end? Because it matters. Because then if I need to go in more, then I have to, because I can come all the way out to here pretty much, roughly there, if I had to. But I can't go back in any further. It seems like a lot. It seems like it's moving like an inch, but it's not really. See, the other thing is the motor has to, I got to use the mount to mount the motor, but it kind of seems like it doesn't want to go. I may have to like come out and around those cables. I was trying to tuck them in where the cables were before. I'm not 100% sure. Although I think that just makes it. And the thing is that might be where I have to go, because if I can't go backwards, because I'm close to the firewall starts to curve right there. So this might have to do. And it's almost better if this was longer, if I can hack it. And then if I can get the bracket to hold, or make a new bracket that holds it, then as long as I can get an overlap here and put a couple of set screws in so that thing stays still, it should be okay. Or I weld it on, well, this one is, I don't know if that's really metal. I don't know, I really don't want to weld with the sensitive material here, but I can weld the other one because they're the same size. So I got a piece of exhaust pipe that'll actually overlap it, but it'll just overlap at this point. This might really need to be where it is. Like, I probably didn't even have to go down as much as I did, because I really had to go forward, kind of thing, but it really kind of needs to live right around there because of how far the motor is. At least you don't see the motor as much, but you see, of course, you see the gearing here. So something to think about. If I just had a little tiny bit to overlap, but that it looks like it's starting to contort. Of course, the steering box is not officially bolted, so as much as I thought that would work, and it does in a certain sense, but where it officially ends up might be a little different. But I don't see it being a real issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have to rotate this motor, I got to rotate it anyway. I mean, the other thing is to bring it all the way over here, where my hand is here. Then you really see it, So that was my initial issue. So although this would kind of work, it really, you got the light switch in a way, it's all electrical stuff. I mean, if I put a smaller light switch in, which is a possibility with all this, that's angled right there. This is what I was talking about, the tilt steering. That would be kind of cool too. I have to adapt the original one back on, which would be interesting. But I don't know. It's not looking good right here as far as I'm concerned. So if you tilt it and it's tucked in that corner there, that's going to be hard too. There has to be room for it to really go. Oh well. So ultimately, I'm having a hard time. That tube, the main tube, is the same size as this, but this guy, which I was going to join them with, it fits, and it's relatively good. It's a little looser on this one than that one. That one's tighter, but it's also, it doesn't fit through here, and everything's going to end in here, and I wanted to put the original pipe, which is thin wall pipe, and this is very thick. So I was thinking about machining this so that one becomes butt up against this. It could slide into this, just an idea. I guess the other thing I can do is just chuck it on the very tip of this, cut all of the rest of it all up to the end there, and then I can just cut off the part that we can't machine, that it doesn't grab onto. I suppose you can grab it from the inside, but like ultimately these are all magnets that make the electric steering work, and it's like very important to not get this dirty with pieces in it. But like I said, I could always shove some masking tape inside there and around this side. Hopefully, things won't get in. All right, as you can see, I decided to push it in more, that 1/4 inch or so that it was sticking out. Flat was out there. I pushed in I pressed it in more, and then I welded it around. It's not the greatest, but it's gonna fucking hold. The splines alone are gonna hold, but I can maybe do this better, but I don't know. Let's put the reading glasses on. Yeah, I mean, if anything, I went on the spots that I was able to polish, I went high on those. The other ones, I really didn't go that high. Yeah, it's not perfect. It has holes in it, kind of thing, but it's largely not going anywhere. I'm honestly not worried at all. I most of the spots I missed. Like I said, it's not missed. It's just there's enough weld there, and it's just I went overkill on the other spots, so it's just not that good of a welder here, but it's not going to fall apart. Oh, and the other thing I want to point out is that I still can go more if I had to. I could have went more, and it's still, look at this. Look how much adjustment that is. I can go right there. The bolt that stops. You see with the notches there. I can go right about there. I don't know. I don't want to keep going. I don't want this thing to drop. But if you go all the way in, it actually hits the U-joint. It hits the U-joint, preventing it from moving that way. So it's like even going all the way in, because this is not the way it was meant to be set up. I put these two U-joints together. I paid the guy to put it together because I had a hard time. That being said, it's not going to really go much more than around. So I have, I have options, and I mean I could technically grind this down even if that was a problem. Of course, my starting point would be off, and I, could slide off technically. I mean, it's not, but ultimately, this is the way I want to keep it. But in hindsight, I can go even, further in probably, and I still give myself. This is a good 1.25 inches of adjustment, at least. But I believe I measured it to be like 1.25 inches to 1.125 inches. So. This is going to work real well. I think it's better than having it where it's not on a spline shaft, it's smooth, it's just the shaft itself here, and it's just something going around this, and then I drill a hole through it and put a bolt and nut. I think this is way safer in the end, and it's probably smoother and for that matter, So I'm very proud of myself. I don't know if my friend can do it, but I was contemplating actually, because this is such a thick walled piece of metal where, this is basically tin, but they're the same outside diameter. What I'm contemplating now, because this shaft, fits on this well, but it's a little bit tight on that. So even though they're not, this is still slightly bigger, but I was thinking about somehow getting this in the machine to machine this down. So now I can go all the way to the end, and then it'll fit through here just properly, and I can put my couple of set screws that I need to put, and I put the switch in this. And in fact, I can put the switch hanging out in here. If I run directional signal wires and everything there, it won't look silly. And if the switch was there as well, I can hide it as much as possible. Whereas if I'm kind of, I can't go too far. I pretty much where this guy comes into play, it pretty much needs to be right here, but I'd rather have this whole thing go long, over it. So it's something to think about, as opposed to butting it up and then putting this other piece in. It was my solution last time. I had that exhaust piece. I don't know where the hell it went. Gotta clean up. Oh, it's right in front of me. Okay, so this fits a little loose on there, not so loose here. It fits really nice on there, in fact, but it would have to be butted up against, and then I put set screws in last time. I can go all the way as well, but the problem is just this, it doesn't fit that. I hate to modify that just in case. I like to use all the original stuff and not kind of abortionize it, you know. So God forbid anything can be redone and put back the way it was, even though you could buy that piece. It's not a big deal. I really feel that machining this down so I can go all the way and then put set screws and then put my switch where I need it to go is, you know, a pretty good thing, you know. So this thing's going to keep turning on the compressor. Oh wait, that was my another idea. But right now it's starting to rain. It's supposed to snow tomorrow too, and I got to clean up. I got the speedy dry down. I should have instantly swept it up with all the oil that was there. I went and I bought the speedy dry, but I in order to get the motor over here, because I have ideas now that I'm going to start working on with the motor mounts. It's going to be really good, and I think it's going to work out, you know, almost perfect. So I got some things to do. I got a couple of things I got to make because I want to make it easier to do. This thing just finished over a while ago. These are the original mounts. And I got to wipe them down. The dirt should come off. I'm going to make a little bracket that goes on the inside so that I stretch it across here and I'll have studs coming out. Thing is, this is really shitty over here. I don't like this because I couldn't barely get the freaking wrench on there to do that. So I may have to do one where the piece of metal I put in the back, because, you know, it's going to have more weight, I'm figuring, even though I'm sure these can take it. They're only 3/8 bolts. So I'm thinking about either putting the metal piece I'll have going across, because I wanted to do it with studs so I could put the studs in, but now I'm a little worried that I won't be able to get it caught, that type of thing. So I may have to weld a nut to it and put this one with a bolt so I can catch it, but it's kind of stupid what they did here. I don't know if I should grind it out and then I mean, it does not. It looks like it does, but it really doesn't. It's a little funny, but I'll see. The nut would have to be, the stud would have to be short if I did studs. But if I do that stud first, you know, that nut first, or to have them both loose and get them both caught, I think it should be okay. Because it kind of sucks, you know. Debating on, it's not even so much that, it's just like the bolt hole goes straight through. It's like, that's stupid. It really is. I'm wondering if it'd be better to, I mean, obviously you could put a swivel, which I had on there, but it wasn't grabbing it right, you know. So an open end was better. So if I can catch a nut, I don't think it'll be too bad, you know, but I got to clean these up. And hopefully the other mounts, the hole will fit there, and then I just make another hole. But I think it's going to overextend, so I was talking about a piece of metal welding onto this. And the hole continues through there, and then this one would be outside here, which should be fine. The thicker the metal, the less issue I probably would have, but I just want to put these in the car and then lay the motor on top of it and see what happens. See where, you know, how far off I am. I have enough room for the radiator and whatnot. Should be real close by swapping them and putting opposite holes and drill new holes in the frame. I was cleaning these guys too. I bought these. This is for a 3.1, 2.8 motor out of a Camaro. And that was the benefit of having more than one choice. But the G-point, I think, is going to work out better because it's going to, I can kind of angle it any way I want. Where this one here, it comes out at a 45-degree angle, roughly. It's a 60-degree angle engine, so it's probably similar to that. But then these mounts, they kind of go on an angle like that. So it ends up being 45, roughly. So I don't think I'm going to use them because I don't think it's feasible. Where this thing here being flush and flat, it makes all the difference. You know, these guys. You know, when the end result is that's pretty crazy. You know, I think it's gonna come out real good. So I hooked it right there, and I go,
I'm working on the motor, I'm doing things, taking things off, cleaning things up. I'm like, what the fuck happened? It came out. I took off the engine stand already. I'm scared to fucking touch this thing now. Wow. I don't believe this. I was going to leave, but it's completely safe, but I don't know if you can see on the camera. It looks a little bit bowed to me. So it's not going anywhere. It really can't. That whole bar would have to bend or crack in the middle. But rather than leave it on all night, I don't really need it on there because I got the flywheel on, I got the starter on, got my little pigtail in, cleaned everything up, touched up some. I took out the distributor and put right stuff on the outside of this because it looked like a tiny, tiny leak, like seeping. Same thing with the bottom of the oil pan. But the thing is that I really don't think that was an issue. I just did it just in case. I changed the spark plugs. I took out some sensors that are not going to be used. I got to figure out where I'm going to put the sensor because I got to take it out of the other engine and it's a bigger thread. And to get the right one, but new with a smaller thread, if AI is correct, then it's like $60, but $60 for the original Studebaker one anyway. That being said, I can drill these out, maybe. Hopefully the metal filings won't matter. I got to get a nut for this. I got to get a nut to hold down this guy for the power brakes here, which it doesn't have. Could happen in the future. Oh yeah, this guy, the PCV valve, I moved it here because they had a plug over here. They had it here. So I'm like, this thing wasn't being vented. There's no fucking way that was any good for the engine, but it didn't leak out. The front seal wasn't leaking either, so I'm pretty sure this ain't gonna leak, you know, but just doing what I did definitely helped. What else did I do today? I'm leaving, so I gotta shut off my supply for the heater, power supply in here. But I made a couple of these guys to go on the inside of this and the other side. I wanted to weld the nuts, but to weld the bolts. But this bolt here is an issue, so I got to get a smaller nut. I'm gonna get 3/4. This is an inch, you know. If I go half, that's pushing it because you know the nut's at least 1/4 of an inch. And then when you put it, you know, this is, what, 1/8? This is like 3/16. That's 1/4 inch already. So you lose 1/4 inch, plus you got to go through the chassis, you know, so you can't go 1/2 inch, but it's got to be shorter to catch it. But I think I'm going to put the longer one on the bottom because it's open, you know. So if I put the longer one, then it's easier to catch the whole thing to get it to start without, but also I need to possibly have the thread sticking out a little bit, you know, back a little bit to catch the nut, depending. But it is what it is. I was thinking about adding another support here, and maybe hogging that out. Just it's funny how they welded it here to melt the metal on both sides, so it's not like a sharp drop off. It's amazing how they did that, you know. But I'm like, and it's obviously strong. It's like I don't even need that. It's basically angled all the way around. It's like, man, you couldn't figure out a way, though, to not have that. But I guess, you know, once they're in, you never have to remove them. Haha, until now. Hopefully, it won't be a big issue. It's, like I said, it's only got to be once. Store didn't have fine thread. They came out with fine thread bolts. I was, like, trying to buy them. I was like, unless that was it. I was looking for 1-inch ones, so I might get the smaller ones and get the fine thread, because that's what they had there, just in case. Maybe they know something. I don't know. But like I said, they had a nut on the inside. It's really a pain in the neck. If it's not like a GM where you can just, you know, you can just get in there. Like one bolt was easier, the other bolt was harder, like big time harder, you know. So I had to use a flex handle ratchet with I think I tried a deep socket. It held it, but I couldn't hold it on the other side. With two people, it's easier, you know, obviously. Anywho, hopefully I'm able to mark this up in the next day, even tomorrow possibly. Once I'm done with those, I got to drill holes in the car to put those mounts in, and then lay on top and see how close these are to the holes, you know. Because I can just hog out the holes. I can do a few different things. I can bolt, you know, weld something on top of that, a flat plate of some sort, so it can catch all ends, you know.
and should be fine. I'm excited. I got the harmonic balancer that came during the day today while I was here. I got the old one off. I took the fuel lines off. Like, these people were really hacks, you know. It's funny how they hire somebody to do an engine job and they don't really do the right thing. Like, they used all the old lines for these two, and then they literally just cut this with like a pair of dikes on both ends to get it off because they couldn't unscrew it, I guess. And they left that piece on there, so I just tossed it. It was all rusty. I'm going to get an end that screws in there that's brass, that'll have a ferrule on it to put that on there. Because I can understand, you know, it's good to have a separate piece instead of one piece, especially if it's going to rust. It's probably hard to get to. But this is at least cut with a tubing cutter, and you can put two clamps on to hold it. That was just hilarious. So I tossed it all. I should have filmed it, but I'd have to look through here. Look, yeah, this is the one on the thing that they just cut that with the thing, and it basically looked like the same thing for the piece I cut off. Oh, there it is. So I guess that's where I cut it, and that's literally what was under there, and the rubber hose was hard as a rock for a motor that was done like 5 years ago. That wasn't a good thing, you know. And I got a new compressor coming, but it's only a double pulley. They don't sell the single pulley anymore. So what I'm thinking about doing is putting the new compressor, pressing out the new bearing out of it, and because this bearing has play, and I don't know how that sounds on camera, but it's spinning smooth, but I can hear noise, you know. And then you can flip it back and forth like this. It's making noise. So I don't know if I should. I gather I would change the clutch and clean up this front plate here. You know, I suppose somebody can machine it as well, you know. But there's another, you know, certain amount of things you got to do to make that work with the air gap and whatnot. Not impossible, but I don't like this. I don't know what the hell they did here. They got one power wire coming and one ground wire, and it's somehow all rigged here. I gather it's only going to one. I have to open it up to see what the hell they did, but I actually saw pictures of other things that look like the same thing. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, it almost feels like there's two wires up to this point here, you know? But it's very... Yeah, there's only one wire there. I don't understand it. I don't know if it went to some kind of... I don't see there being a solenoid pushing it for the thing, but I mean, I gather that's what that was for. You could push it right there. Maybe I should look into seeing if it's available to some sort, to some degree, but I don't get it. You know, I don't understand why they would wrap this up, but I guess they were just hiding it so nobody asks any questions. You know, it kind of looks official, but you can't have a ground and a positive together. So. And I'm not sure yet. The plug that's in the back of the motor, there were two basic plugs that were kind of emission-ish, you know, and they put brass plugs in them. But there's a vacuum line open here, which would go to your heater box and all that stuff. But this doesn't have it, obviously, so I'll have to buy some caps. I don't like this line. This line just pops right off. And like, they had the hose the other way, so that's why maybe they thought it went there instead. But it's very loose on here. So, and I think I bought a new PCV valve anyway. That's why it looks spotless clean. It's not spotless clean. It's rusting because it never got oil on it. Probably never had sucked any vacuum through it at all. So that's interesting. Anywho, got a few things I got to do here. So. I gotta see. I don't know if I bought one of these. I feel like I have at least in the past, but you know, who knows where the hell I have it. All the wires look pretty good. A couple of them, like one of them were two. Yeah, one on each side looks to be like looped like this, and it looks kind of long. Or is it just this side? Yeah, it's just that. It was the one. So one was on the long side. I don't get that. It doesn't have all the hold downs are not here. So I don't know what I'll do with that. They're fine, you know. The cabin rotor was super clean on the inside. I was like, it really didn't see much mileage. You know, he said like 19,000, but I somehow don't think that. So at least I changed the plugs. And I put conventional plugs. That's what the Jeep called for. But the Chevy, if you have it in a Chevy, that calls for. It doesn't even call for those plugs. They didn't even have it on Rock Auto, you know. But it had these. But these are platinums. And look, every single time you have a regular ignition system, platinums never seem to really get clean. If this thing was running that good, it could have been running on the rich side, but it's not bad. You know, it's not misfiring, but it's richer than it could be, and just not hot enough spark. I just feel like conventional plugs always work better in the motors that were designed. I always try to shy away from platinum plugs in a classic car. This is a little different though. This is more like a modern engine, you know. And these are really good carburetors when they work good, you know. And it's not computerized. The distributor is not computerized. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff about this. That makes it really good for a swap, you know. And I got the 700 over there. I'm going to change all the seals, you know, on it, front and rear, the pan. I gotta still get all that stuff. Gotta get a transmission mount. Gotta figure out the gear ratio with the gear and the tranny. So that's another thing, but it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, this converter's a little on the rusty side. I got to clean up a few things on it. Nothing crazy. That was a working transmission, but it has not run in a long time. So, and I've had it for close to 5 years. If not, it's either 4 or 5 years. And I had this whole engine at my garage for the longest time, but it was a computerized Camaro engine. I was just thinking about putting it in something else. And then when I moved here, it's so lack of space. I saved the tranny, but not the engine. So I'm going to put this. I'm going to get this. I can't really tell with the lights on like this, but I guess it might look like it's bowing a hair. But I'm just going to put it on the stand. There's no sense otherwise. All right, I got some components off here because I'm cleaning them, but new harmonic balancer is on. You can see there's a mark here. It doesn't line up, but then they were smart and they put another mark on this side. So that being said, the mark is for, I guess, rear-wheel drive, and this one might be front-wheel drive or something along those lines, or just a different car has it in a different place. So they covered both ends, where some of the other aftermarket ones did not have that. That's Dorman. Put the adapter in because I got tired of asking AI and trying to figure out what the ohms resistance was. All I know, the original Studebaker one, which worked fine. I just cleaned it up. They want $60 for it, and I just, before I even go there, you know, I'd rather just see everything work. Just another $60 to spend, I think is ridiculous. There were some other ones, but you know, it's funny how AI speaks very confidently about everything they do, and then when you catch them, they're like, "Oh, well, you know, sometimes I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that was confusing for you." No, it's confusing for you. So it is what it is. Now, the leak that I had over here, I ended up buying a new gasket for this, but I knew it wasn't leaking from the gasket. The gasket was good. I just cleaned it all off. I might have a little bit more. This is like paint or something, but I'm going to use some brake cleaner to clean it up. But the bolt was really leaking, and sure enough, that has an O-ring on it. And when I used my little pick, it came off in 2 pieces, hard as a rock. Got to change it. It's in the kit when they do it, but they get lazy or they just don't think outside the box. Like, oh, what's this O-ring for? You know. So that's that. Okay, so my idea failed in one sense, that this was too close to the chassis, and I'll show you when I make a video out there, but I welded these guys on just to make it easier to catch it, and it's going to work good. Everything seems to be okay. It was just a matter of the angle down here touching the chassis, because the new hole that I drilled was a little too close to the curve at the end of the chassis where it curves down. You know, the only other thing I could have done is put a different bolt hole in a different place. If I didn't want to do that, I just figured, you know, continue with what I'm doing. It'll be fine. It took me way over 3 hours, but I made it. So we don't have to do this tomorrow. I'll just bring the other thing. That actually came out pretty good, all things considered. I didn't go nearly as deep on the first one, but the nut clears when you put it through. So I realized after I did it, I'm like, oh, I can go deeper. This is not a problem, you know. So ultimately, this is the motor mount, and now, as you can see, there's plenty of threads there. There's so many metal firings that may not go all the way down. I'll show you done here. See, I didn't even go all the way tight, but it's past the end of the thing there. This one just clinches it. This ended up being a lot easier. Well, not a lot easier, but it was a long time. But I drilled this. I went deeper with the initial drill bit, and then I put a really good die grinder bit in and went sideways all the way around. Just kept going in circles until I straightened it all out, and so until the nut fit, you know. And the key to get the nut fit, to get the nut to fit, was to go like this, because the nut was fitting, but it wasn't like totally on center. So when you tighten it there, you go through. As long as it's down, that's going to work. You know, came out pretty good, all things considered, for Jabolo doing it. So I just realized when I look at the wall on this, it's basically the same thickness as that. There's no way I'm going to make this, you know, the inside diameter by machining this down. I don't think it's possible, to be honest. I'm just going to go another route. The more I look at it, because it's the same size, and like I said, it fits through the bracket. But I thought it was a lot thicker, and I guess I got confused by the piece on the inside there. But it's definitely not. It's really not thick. And I can measure it with the micrometer, but ultimately, when I look at these two, they look about the same thickness. So there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So I'm probably not going to come tomorrow, since I got that other thing done. And I'm just going to have to come up with something else with this, you know. But I may still have something else to do another day or something. But right now, I think I'm just going to test fit the motor and get that part done and weld up the brackets once I get it all set. But this is not looking like what I originally thought. There's no way. Boom. So a whole lot of in and out that I didn't film because I had help that I was yelling at, so I wouldn't have made good videos. Right now, the jack under the oil pan, I have this pretty loosely on here right now. It's just barely holding it taut. But what I ended up coming up with, because these original mounts were not going to work, it was not far back enough, but I used them to continue this because it would have been hard otherwise. It's a possibility. You know, when I'm looking at it now, it's like it's possible these mounts could have been rotated sideways, and then the flat piece of metal could have gone right here, perhaps. I'm not 100% sure that would work. I think this gives me a little more flexibility. So basically, I have a flat piece there, and this is 1/2 inch steel, and I got 1/2 inch steel under the motor mounts bolted on. And then I had these rotated the other way, and it didn't quite fit. And I knew I was going to be close, but I made it so that either both mounts had to go. There's a stud coming out of the mount itself, and that goes down. I really wanted it that way, so the bolt is on the outside. At first, I had the stud on the inside, and so this is a nut and bolt on the side, you know, on the outsides. But I figured there'd be a little bit of metal over here to weld, and metal to here to weld, and it looks pretty good. I mean, I got to figure out exactly where, you know, everything is. I got to put the fan back on because, you know, when you put something big like a fan, you can figure out where you're going. I got this guy kind of in the way right here. It's going to come off anyway, so it's real close to the motor, basically the gas pedal. And they're both touching close to the control arm right here, so I made them extra long. I had the guy make them extra long because I wasn't sure, you know, if I didn't want to make them too short, and then if I had to flip them, something would have gone wrong. Of course, now I think about it, wouldn't have, you know, but ultimately I'm gonna trim this to be equal with the you know, this corner right here on both sides. So it's pretty much right in the right place, and it looks pretty good. I mean, the motor is technically supposed to be over to the passenger side because the rear end is slightly to the passenger side, you know, where the drag shaft goes. So everything is always kind of like that. I still don't know if this is going to be too. Yeah, it's kind of.
It kind of made it in the middle because it's down, but it's ever so slightly. I don't think it would matter much, you know. Sometimes you get a little too much information online. Yeah, it's definitely to the passenger side. You know, nothing crazy that a drive shaft wouldn't be able to make up for, especially a two-piece drive shaft. But it might actually be better with a one-piece drive shaft. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. But the hole that goes through the chassis may not allow it. So we'll see. But it's looking pretty good because. And the way I did this was I basically had it suspended in midair like this after realizing this wasn't working, and I put a piece of wood under the harmonic balancer because my harmonic balancer was touching that thing. So because I don't have the steering box in, but I guess I can jack up the car and move it sort of, but then I have the jack under the back of the engine, so I don't know how feasible that is. But the S10 four-wheel drive oil pan is very hard to find. I'd have to find a used one probably. This is a Jeep pan, so it's still technically four-wheel drive. It has more space than a two-wheel drive pan, but a two-wheel drive pan would have never made it. But it's real close down there. That's where this guy right here, that arm goes across. It looks like it's going to clear, you know. And it looks like by the time the bell housing comes down, the transmission pan should clear the original cross member there too. So I don't think it's going to be too much of an issue. But it's looking pretty good. You always want the carburetor on a lot of engines always seem to be, you know, the level part because it has to be level, you know. So a lot of times I noticed on the Chevy motor that I did that the engine wasn't quite level, but the carburetor ended up being level, you know. You put it like there was more space to put it on the valve covers, but I had to find a smaller level. But if you put it on the valve cover, a lot of times it'll dip down. And that's kind of natural to do that. But this original center line is probably up because the original center line of the engine was 2.5 inches below this point, pretty much. So the center line is here. This is, I think it's somewhere around 1.5 inches below. Because if I went another inch below, look at it hits. It hits this whole contraption here with the steering. Something I did not think about. Because it was a flathead 6, it went over here. So now the motor can go down. Because the oil pan can pass this for the most part if it's made right. You know, of course they made it right for the car. But if the harmonic balancer is over in this, living in this area, then it's not really an issue. You know, so. It's going to be tough, but I gather that part is right in the center. So, and again, I'm not a fan. I don't want to put the engine directly in the center, and it really won't fit now with what I did because I made all this equally spaced and straight back, and that's why I want to put the other pieces of metal in. And you know, the center line is just slightly off, and I never checked to see if the center line was off. You see the center line is slightly to the passenger side? I think that's normal, you know, because it's funny how the motor mounts are definitely more one side than the other. So it's kind of like you put it in the center of the car and it figures it out somewhat, like it naturally pushes it over. So, I mean, obviously the Jeep could be a totally different, you know, thing where it just did what it had to do, you know, like they could have pushed it more to that side, but I think generally speaking, everything is slightly more on the right side. But it's not, I don't think it's that, you know, super duper important. You know, 700 horsepower or something like that, but we're hoping to get, you know, maybe this will be double the horsepower of that slow ass fucking flathead. Man, that thing was slow. But there's supposed to be like 410 gears in this, so it'll have good acceleration, which some of these trucks may have had, you know, but some of them, like I know, had like 373s and 350, definitely 342s, 355s, something like that. Whatever, you know, GM had back then. But I think this is as good as it's going to be, and it's plenty of room to work. And this is exactly how I envisioned it too. You know, like it'd be a very easy thing to work on, and you'd be able to get to everything. And I'm even looking at the exhaust; it doesn't have a horrible path. And I'm not 100% sure if the pipe I got is going to work, but it was basically set up that for S10. So that's this pipe here. I don't know, but I'm sure I can do something, at least with the downpipes, and somebody can make it, just, or I can do it even, just join them all together, just recut them and move them around or whatever. But it would be really nice if it fit where it needed to fit, So this is like a very big win of how it looks and how grim it looked, because I was so close to that. But like I said, I put a piece of wood under that. It was like 1/2-inch wood, and I just kept suspending these mounts in the air until, and then I basically put it in a place where I thought it was good. I figured it needed to be 1 inch higher from the original mounts, here. Sorry, I got the hiccups. Anyway, so this is 1/2 inch and that's 1/2 inch. And I can always slide an extra 3/16 piece of steel under the motor mounts or something like that to go up. Even after I weld it together, it could be done, So, and also it could be something could be wedged in between this, So it can be done both ways, So I don't see a problem with that. I just think on this side, though, I'm going to have to hack off the original mount, because it may fit now that I have it properly set, but I'm thinking there is a fuel pump eccentric, not eccentric, but it's just a fuel pump rod. But everything on this motor is brand new for the most part. I mean, yeah, it's a little dirty, but I'm curious if this will go in. Of course, I'd be fighting the fuel pump push rod and whatnot, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be an issue. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this is, like, I don't think you can enter from the top. I don't think you could do something to make it better. I got gas on my hand, and it's cold out. Hold the phone this way. Oh, so this actually angles like this. It would be great if I can get it to go in, but it's not looking like it. And I hate to have it set up that you have to pull out jack up the motor just to change a fuel pump. But as soon as that thing is hacked off right there, I don't think it's going to be an issue. So I will probably start to do that now. Just take it off, and it'll be fine, I like the idea of bolting it. I'm going to use flange nuts, but the T part is going to be welded. And it looks like a perfect perpendicular from here, Even if it's slightly off, I can make it perpendicular, because the mounts will, you can always move it with the mounts, the rubber. So it's looking pretty damn good. And I think all adjustments can be done afterwards. But it doesn't matter how much I have left over in the end. You have to think that I don't necessarily have each one of those pieces on the original mounts there, like exactly the same depth. I'd have to maybe take some other measurements, and the guy cut them evenly. But who knows if it's off a little, So this is all things I got to figure out. And I'm wondering if I should be bolting in the tranny just to see where everything lies. But I don't know. At the very least, I could just tack the mounts and, figure it out from there. There's only like a 1/4 inch sticking out on that side. On this side, I think there's more on this side. So I don't know if that means the motor needs to. No, it's about the same. It's about the same, and it looks like it's straight. So I'm going to take some measurements, between the pulleys to certain flat areas in the front here, and I'll take a straight edge to things and see, if it looks like it needs to be tweaked. So I'm very happy so far. So it's funny, I just started taking some measurements, and I'm like, I got 9 inches, just shy of 9 inches from the middle of the V-belt to the edge of that where the radiator sits. And I didn't get it from this, and I forgot. I ordered a whole nother used alternator, because I try to look for another double pulley, because you see this double pulley? It probably came with this alternator. The alternator's not old. It looks new-ish, And they get lazy. They just put the one that came on it instead of changing it over when it's necessary. So that AC one goes on the front part of the alternator, and the rear part of the alternator
goes on the second one. And they didn't have one on the second one. They didn't have a belt. But now if you look at this, this is the crankshaft pulley and the water pump pulley. This is where the AC rides in the front here. Look at the space. That same space. And the alternates also, they left this belt off. Because you see, this was so far away, it kind of worked. But I could tell the belt was getting, side cut, or whatever you want to call it. It was getting chopped, And I realized that the double pulley should look like this. And sure enough, I go look for a used alternator because I tried looking for the pulley. It's like non-existent. All GM original pulleys don't look like this. So I was like, somebody change this, and it's an abomination right now. Now, it's very possible it's only with the Jeep, because, and I don't know, I haven't looked at other pulleys, but because the Jeep has this setup with the sanded compressor, which I really liked because the aftermarket ones are all sandeds, and they're easy to work with, and the aftermarket kits usually use the sanded one. So the original one was on the S10s is a Delco one, the Harrison one, the radial compressor. So that radial compressor the belt might be in a different place, therefore the pulleys are different. I don't know, but it really has to stick with the Jeep pulleys because that's what we have, and changing anything else may not work. Then again, it's very possible that changing to the S10 things, you could still bolt on one of these guys, and the double, because I was saying the double pulley is not going to work. So I bought a new compressor, but I'm going to take the bearing out and put it in this one, put this face on, and just reuse that. That way at least the compressor will be new. Because I don't want to put shitty old compressor with because that does look original. It might have been painted, and somebody kind of spray painted it at times. But it's not what you want to use. You want to put everything new when you have a whole brand new converted AC system, So it's going to be interesting. I'm very happy overall, though. So I'm going to put the fan on because I leave room for the pulley, or just put the pulley with it, and then see how close it gets to the radiator, so the fan doesn't hit the radiator, of course. But I don't think it will. It should be. I just measured 9 inches from there, and I know from the radiator I had 10 inches from the edge of the front edge of the block to the face of the radiator. So it should be no issue. So, but overall, everything's looking good. Okay, so after trying to weld it myself, it kept breaking off, but it was 18 degrees. I ended up putting some better tacks, but I went to the guy. He's like, grind all this shit off that you did. So I grinded it all off, except for a couple of to hold it, and then he TIG welded it. And he ran out of TIG wire, so he MIG welded the rest. Because he got 2 lines on it. He said, that ain't moving. You don't need to. He's like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. I said, just do it, please. So if I let the motor all the way down, the cap just grazes the back here, which is actually pretty common on even the GMs. So you always got to worry about if you do the tranny, you got to loosen the cap usually. So I am probably going to do that, but I'll leave the jack under overnight. But it looks pretty good, all things said. When I had did the last prep, I put this level, just basically a straight edge, and I went here, and I measured from from the distance there and the distance here with a tape measure, and it's maybe a 1/4 inch off, but it was off a lot more than that, and I loosened the mounts and move it. If I got an extra hand here, I may loosen them again and move it, but also there's some flexibility in the rubber. I can loosen the motor, loosening those motor mount bolts also, which I just tighten them first, but I have to get under the car and play with it and do all that. But you're not talking a big deal here, because if you just grab the back of the tranny, once the tranny is on, I just push it over a little bit. Once that motor mount's in, it's all going to conform, So I'll just make sure that I'm always measuring that on this end. But I must say it's pretty killer. I'm very happy with this. And the radiator, I bought a Dart radiator for the same car as this, 60 up to 69, and it has the hoses where I need them on that side. This one could have been over, but I don't have the new hose. I don't know if it's in one of these boxes. It might be, and I'm curious where it naturally wants to go. Hopefully it does, because I'm going to bring it to the welder, though, because you can see the brackets are on this side. I want them to reverse it. Put this one on the front over here and that one on the front over there, because that's how this one was. This one has the, you can see it's on the other side here. It faces up, but the brackets are on the front here like this. It's actually the perfect width. Obviously I got to make holes for it, but it's really not that bad. This one might be slightly taller, but this is going to work. And the thing is about this particular radiator, I got it from all the way from California. I could have got one in one day, but they all come with the, if you could look at the you can see it's just, maybe you can see, it's just a plastic thing in there, and it's just a pipe thread, where the one I bought for this car, and a lot of them have the Dodge thread already with the reverse flare or whatever you want to call it. So you put an inverted flare, but with the female nut. Now, the problem with that is that this is going to be a GM tranny. So I wanted those so I could put the GM tranny lines without having to adapt it to that. So the cooler is going to be in the right place. The hoses are probably going to be in the right place. I just have to move the brackets, and it should fit just fine. So I'm real happy about that. It really looks like it's really coming together now. The only thing I might have to remove, and not really for this, because I still haven't figured out what AC condenser I'm going to get, because I'm thinking different things. And I wanted a bracket. I wanted that bracket to be partially on and then buy new aluminum, but I'm just going to leave it like that because you can't really put a bracket behind here. It would be hard to get the radiator in, and among other things, So I just assumed do it like this. And this guy is welded in this thing here, so I'd rather just go underneath it, And ultimately, you don't want to block the whole radiator with it, It's going to be AC is going to be cold, There's no way around that. The systems work good. Still got to figure out the steering, the throttle cable. I took out this bracket because it was hitting that, but it definitely that ain't moving nowhere, And I told AI everything I'm doing, and they're like, "Oh, it's fine." Although we did start off with 2.5 inch, this is like 2 1/8 inch wide. Both of them were supposed to be 2.5, but you you buy metal, and the guy had all this scrap metal, and it was 2 1/8. So I'm not gonna put that to waste, and I got it for not that much money, all things considered. So I'm happy. Things are going good, and got more figuring to do. A lot of stuff to bolt on the engine. Not sure if I'll pull out the engine to. I can't put the motor and tranny together. I don't think it doesn't matter anyway because I got to make a cross member and whatnot. But ultimately, it's going to be pretty cool. This is like it's almost, and because it's so deep well in there, it looks like an S10 under the hood. Like people might say, "Did you put an S10 chassis on this?" So I just think it's cool. It really seems like we did the right thing, I think, but I got to try to save as much wiring as possible. I really can't do wiring right now. It takes forever. I did it on the other guy's car, and my landlord was giving me shit about having the car back here too much, so I gotta try to, make things work. I cut the brackets, both of them, shorter. I never tried putting the fuel pump in to make sure that it was going to work. So, pretty sure now it will. I hope so. Boom. Now and when it's in, it's nowhere near. It was pretty much hitting that. So you gotta go under that bracket. I actually cut the other side off more. After I cut this side, I was like, I really could have cut more. And then I cut the other side more, so you kind of don't even see it. It's actually equal with the motor mount bracket I made. This guy sticks out a little bit, so it could be more trimmed if it had to be. But it's all good. And I always thought, no matter what, like this is a nut and bolt here. You can always make an L bracket going off the chassis. You can actually, this has ended up being, the guy gave me these really long bolts with the motor, and it's all the way tight. It tightens all the way at the end. But another bracket can be built off of this to go down. There's a lot of things you can do. But as soon as you hold it up by the back, it ain't going nowhere, And these Jeep mounts, they're not going anywhere, Like And right now the space is a little bit less because I have the motor definitely jacked up more on the back. But even if it's that close, it really shouldn't be an issue. My issue though comes when I start turning it. I really can't do it yet. I wish I had the steering wheel, the whole thing to check that. But I'm gonna have to get an S10 pan. That's the only thing I don't know. And then the motor would have to come out for sure. But all in all, looking good. Okay, so the good news is I have the pan up. I put the car up a little bit, and front end totally misses everything. That is awesome. And it misses it by a mile, so it's good. And it comes all the way up here, and obviously it doesn't hit the engine. So this is all good stuff. Getting ready for the snow, cleaning up the transmission on the outside a little bit there, drained it out, rethreaded and cleaned up the rust on the torque converter back there. I got the alternator, the used alternator in just to harvest I harvested the fan and the pulley, and I could have left it on that other alternator, but there was somebody put a bigger thread in that, but it looked like Jeep did it, the volt that's sitting up there, the adjustment volt. So I just wanted to leave it alone because it looked like a bigger path in the Jeep. So I don't know if it just something gets lost in translation, because even when you buy it for the Jeep, it only comes with the 5/16, so 8mm thread. So I just figured I'll leave it like this for now and whatever. But also on the Studebaker, I have changed the little balls here, and wow, what a difference it makes. I mean, oops, of course I do it with one hand now, I can't do it, but I mean, they sound so much better, and it just rolls on forever. And it's not, I can't say this is terribly clean. I'm going to give it the brake cleaner check as soon as I can buy more brake cleaner, because I need it for the training too. But it makes a huge difference. Let me see if I can do the same thing I did. So I basically went like this. Maybe it'd be better just to do it like this. Turn it on. Hang on. Yeah. That's pretty nice. It's just spinning very easily. I think huge improvement. What it doesn't explain is why this. I would think there would be more play though, so I'm expecting to have less play. But I did buy the one shim, which I haven't taken out of the box yet. I hope I just lost it and this will make up for it, but we'll find out shortly. Well, I didn't film it, not a huge deal, but all I did was spray freaking PD Blaster on it. But if you remember, I had two big shims and two small shims. So the one that I bought was similar to the smallest one. So I put it in, and sure enough, all the way tight, it does roll. It's a slight bindage there, but I'm just thinking with the lubrication, I think it's going to be fine. But I'm going to put some of that really thick shit and see what happens. I don't know if I'm forcing anything, but I just barely got this on the end. Okay. It's just kind of pushed on. Especially taking out the grease. I mean, it don't look like it's warped. It don't look like it took damage from going in the thing. But that shim made a difference. It's, like I said, there's a slight bindage. I don't know how that happens, works in real life, in real time. But I can't say there's a ton of lubrication, obviously just pouring a little bit on the one spot on the bearing. I mean, I suppose I could put more. It might get messy if it drips out, but this is really all I got right now. So I think this is acceptable, being that it's not really going to be, spinning with any fiercity. It seems like it's looser, and then right there, when that line comes up, that's when it gets tight. But it's funny how, yeah, right there it's tight. If I go around one more time, it's not as tight. It's like when it goes around twice. Right there. That's so funny. sometimes you gotta, when you get a hammer, I was thinking about, you know, sometimes you just ding it, and you'd be surprised how it finds where it's gotta go, like, you know. Oh my God. Yeah, I guess it's still a little tight. You know, being this is coated here, I really wonder if it took a little bit of a beating. Like I said, I bent that freaking thing, the bolt, you know, or something compromised it just slightly. But that's what this stuff is, you know, the wear, the copper is made to wear, but it's also made to be soft. Might have a burr on it where the bearings are, something happened. I think it'll be fine. I mean, it went from not spinning at all, and I feel like I lost one. I can't see it being that far off. And if something got fucked up, I just can't see, you know, me being responsible for that. I mean, unless it's the very end here where it's you know, I don't think it's actually sitting. You know, I think there's a groove that it sits in, but I could be wrong. You know, a cup that doesn't go all the way to the end. But if I'm wrong, I don't think it's detrimental. If there's a high burr, I think it'll wear in, and you know, it's not like it's putting metal filings in. And as soon as you put any kind of leverage, it's really not binding. But even though it binds, I'm still spinning it with my finger and my thumb. You know, right there. Wish I knew what that was. It's a lot less. That's what I thought originally. It's still in the same line. I'm going to hit it where the line is. There's just something embedded. Yeah, the bearings glide. The bearings seem to be so much better, but it really didn't seem like it did anything. But it was cheap enough to buy all that stuff, so I just figured, what the hell? But the shim made all the difference. I mean, there's definitely no play, and it wouldn't be, but I feel like I had to have dropped it, because I thought there was two, and then it basically, you know, just all of a sudden became four once I took it out of the, see, I tapped it. And it could really not be the down part, it could be the up part, and it could be shit on the shims, I don't know. But still, that would make it looser, the shims. It's got to be something happened here. I didn't honestly check to see how tight it was, but I'm really thinking I just forgot the shim. It's fine, you know. And then this guy, I gather it doesn't need anything. I have a new seal in, but I'll probably lube it up before I put it in. But ultimately, it'll be nice to get off little pieces of shit. Yeah, I'm gonna use two hands. Make sure the bushing in here, because I greased it up, the bushing and the seal, but there's been dust and everything, so I'm just gonna wipe it out. It'll be fine. And then maybe when I put more fluid in, when it's actually submersed in it, it should be fine. I'm not really worried. Everything seems to be working as it's supposed to be. I mean, I got the original gasket. I'm going to leave the adjustment just the way it was, unless I see something weird happening. I don't think there's going to be any play, but obviously I'll see it because it'll be jumping up. But I don't know if that's, you know, it needs a little bit, you know, so I'll see. I'm sure it's not much different than anything else, but I put a little lube on all those points there.
So I'm sure that when it's submersed in fluid, it's got to be better for it overall. You know, I assume some of the stuff can get through there. That's why they have that felt thing, which hopefully I have somewhere. Hopefully it didn't get lost. But I think I have a box over there. But that'll be, I cleaned it up best I could, and I'll shove it back in there. That's all. So it looks pretty much done. Oh, you can tell that's where I put stuff in the threads there, so that when it eventually gets to them, it won't leak. Not sure if I should have put it down further, but I didn't want to go crazy. It's on the threads, and they have to tighten all the way, so I'll see if I change it up. But I started pouring through the hole here, and I'm like, you know what, this is taking a long time, but also I just want to make sure I got everything, so I was thinking about just pouring it in. But it obviously, it was actually effective in that hole. Just couldn't tell, because it probably doesn't take a lot, but it's just so thick, you know? So I'm just going to fill it up here, and I gather there's a limit, because it'll leak out of that hole. I suppose I would just let it leak out of that hole, but there's a lot of fluid in here, but despite that it was leaking too, though. You know, so I'm a little bit like, how far should I go? But that's actually holding some volume there, so I'm just going to go for it. I have a feeling that once the volume is filled over here, it'll be enough over there. This is also laying down, so it's got to, you know, go in the realm of rubbiness. It'll leak out. I just don't know how much is going to pour out of that hole, you know? That's like a half a quart. That sounds right, but I'd rather have too much and it leaks out than, you know, leaks out of the hole there when I open it, compared to having to contend with this afterwards, saying that, oh shit, I fucked it up because I don't have enough fluid in it. So let me get this back together with 2 hands. What a slight pain in the ass. I actually laid it down level and I was filling it up that way. I just keeps on taking more. So, you know, I wanted it to leak out, but it may also start coming out of here. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, I'm seeing some fluid in there. It's really close. I probably should just leave it alone. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, right there, you can see there's some shiny stuff there poking its head through. I think that's it. Because, you know, it is, if it does, you know, it makes a vent out of here, and it just kind of sitting in the fluid, and then that just kind of holds in place, and the sleeve goes on, so it really doesn't go anywhere, and that clamp holds everything together. So, if you have too much, I gather it could force itself out of the seal if there's nowhere to go. So, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. It's pretty full. It might be overfilled, but I can see it on the bearings. Yeah, the bearings both bearings are always going to be in fluid. By the way, there's no resistance. None whatsoever. So it made a difference to be fully put together, I think. It just adds enough, you know, load and leverage. You know, you can see it. Because that guy, the mounting is here. That's where it's supposed to be. So, I mean, all things aside, it's probably not full enough. Usually you fill this until it leaks out. I mean, it might be because I was laying it down, that's why it was coming out. So, no, I guess I got more to go. It just... I have a feeling it goes in easier if you're in some part of that gear. You can actually start looking at it. There may be like an open spot. There was a groove, I forgot which side there was, and I was putting the ball bearings through there because it made it easier.
I don't think I see it here, so I'm still gonna go, because now it's set up, how it would be in the car, so apparently it's taking more, it needs to take more, so we'll keep going, I'm not gonna bother filling.